We usually think of language as a tool for communication, right? It's something we use to talk to each other. But what if I told you its most powerful function is actually as a technology we use to think with? Let's dive into how this hidden tech has literally built the minds we have today.
Seriously, just stop and try to imagine this for a second. There are no books, no notes on your phone, no search engines, nothing. Every single piece of knowledge only exists inside someone's memory. So how do you find it? The phrase to look something up, well, it would be totally meaningless.
And this, right here, is the core idea from the scholar Walter J. Ong. In a culture that's purely oral, a word isn't a static thing you can see on a page. It's a sound. You say it, and then, poof, it's gone. It's an event in time, not an object in space. This one simple difference creates a massive challenge. How do you possibly hold on to an idea that literally disappears the second it's spoken?
So here's the bottom line. If words just vanish, how does a society keep its history, its laws, its wisdom from just disappearing? How do you stop everything you've worked so hard to learn from fading away? This was the fundamental problem that early humans had to solve.
Well, it turns out cultures without writing developed this absolutely ingenious set of mental tools, a kind of cognitive technology to solve this exact problem. And these weren't primitive habits at all. They were incredibly sophisticated adaptations for a world that was built entirely out of sound.
And when you put the two side by side, whoa, you see two completely different ways of thinking. Oral thought is what we call aggregative, redundant, and conservative. Literate thought, the kind most of us are used to, is analytic, linear, and innovative. So let's break down what those oral patterns actually were.
Okay, so here are the tools. Aggregative basically means you clumped ideas together into catchy, memorable chunks. You don't just say soldier, you say the brave soldier. It makes the phrase, stickier in your brain. Redundant means you say things again and again. In a world with no rewind button, this is how you keep everyone on the same page. And conservative means you don't mess with a good thing. The main goal is to preserve precious knowledge, not to risk forgetting it by trying out some wild new idea.
So what we might look at today and call clunky or inefficient was actually a highly optimized system. It was designed for storing massive amounts of data on the only hard drive they had, the human brain. It was a feature, not a bug. And then everything changed. A new technology came along that completely rebooted the operating system of the human mind.
Writing, it is so much more than just drawing out our speech. It's the very first time in human history that we could take a thought, an idea, a piece of vital information, and store it outside of a person. It was our very first external hard drive. And this just created a massive mental revolution. Think about it. Before writing, a huge chunk of your brain's processing power was tied up just remembering stuff. But once you could offload all that data onto a clay tablet or a scroll, your mind was suddenly free. Free to analyze, to follow a really long, complex argument from beginning to end, and to innovate, to build new ideas on top of old ones without being terrified that the old ones would get lost.
But get this, the technology isn't just external, like writing on a page. The very structure of our language, the grammar, the syntax, is also a kind of technology that's constantly being upgraded from within.
That's right, the rules of grammar aren't set in stone. As our needs change, as the ideas we want to talk about get more and more complex, the actual architecture of our language evolves to keep up with those demands.
Now, researchers have a fancy name for this: syntactic communicative hierarchies. I know, it sounds complicated, but the idea is actually super simple. It just means that the way we structure our sentences, the grammar, is organized by what we, the speakers, need to say. Our needs are the driving force.
Okay, that's still a little abstract, so let's look at a really cool, concrete example. Researchers decided to track a subtle but really powerful shift in the German language over the course of 600 years.
So what they zeroed in on was how people express the idea of ability. They tracked the shift from one verb, mögen, to another, können, for the specific job of saying you can do something.
So way back in Middle High German, the verb mögen, which is related to our words may or to like, was kind of like a Swiss Army knife. It was used for all sorts of things, including saying you were able to do something. But as society got more complex, people needed a more precise tool. So the language adapted. Können, which is the modern German word for can, took over the very specific job of expressing capacity. It became a specialized tool for a new specialized need.
You can literally see this evolution in the data. Check out this graph.
It basically tracks how complex German sentences were over time. The higher the line goes, the more complex and layered the grammar is. And look, you see this huge jump right around the 16th century? That's not random. That's the data showing the language developing new, more intricate structures, like that shift from Muggin to Kunnen to handle more complex thoughts. It's a snapshot of a language leveling up in real time.
So what does all of this mean when we put it together? It means our language isn't some finished product we inherit. It's a tool that we are constantly rebuilding and refining ourselves.
This quote from the research paper just nails it. What we need to say is the organizational force behind the rules of our language. Our collective needs drive the evolution of grammar itself.
And that's really the big takeaway here. We aren't just users of language, we're its co-creators. It's a living, breathing technology that we are all upgrading together, with every generation adapting it to express new and more sophisticated ideas about our world.
So if you put our two sources together, you get this amazing, complete picture. Walter Ong shows us the massive impact of an external language technology, writing, and how it totally rewired our brains. And then the work by Ravandi and Kanku shows us the internal process, how the very syntax of language is constantly adapting and evolving from the inside out to meet our needs.
Which, of course, leaves us with a final mind-bending question. I mean, think about our world now with AI, global networks, and science that's getting more complex by the second. Our communicative needs are changing faster than ever before in human history. So, what new tools will our language evolve to help us think about it all? And what will it even sound like 500 years from now?